All right, my friends, no more driving vlogs. I forgot her name, Mona, I think, posted actually a pretty good comment on one of my videos about the liability you'll have potentially if you get in a crash, if you're vlogging while you're driving. Never thought about that. And as a conservative-minded kind of guy, that is a risk I'm not willing to take. So if you're wondering why I'm no longer driving and vlogging, but instead walking in my neighborhood, well, this isn't my neighborhood, this is a fancier neighborhood. They don't let my kind in here, so if they saw me, they'd say, get the hell out of here. But anyway, if you're wondering why I don't see me driving and blogging or vlogging, whatever it's called, doing videos, is because of that. So I think her name was Mona. So Mona, I gotta say thanks. That's actually pretty good advice. You know, I've never thought of myself, because I don't stare at the camera. You know, I'm moving my eyes out all the time when I'm driving like this. You know, it's like your head's got to be on a swivel. I learned that from day one. But who knows if someone's coming up behind me and they ran into me, and then the cops investigate. So, oh, but you were doing a video while you're driving, that won't be good. So, absolutely good advice. Secondly, I'm walking now because I can't work out. So what I do now is I walk until I get my surgery done, and then I'll be in a splint for 6 weeks from there. And so at that point, you know, I'll be walking more and doing more walking blogs as well. And so if you're wondering why I'm not doing videos while I'm driving, that's the reason why, my friends. That's the reason why. So appreciate the advice on that. It was when I was driving back one time from Fort Benning, and I was doing the vlog thing. It was actually kind of fun. But yeah, you know, don't want to take a risk, you don't. And that's one of the reasons I want to share this with you. I was reading an article today about a guy named Larry Swedroe, who writes an advisorperspectives.com. And I'm a huge fan of Advisor Perspectives. They got a good podcast. I've been reading these guys for a long, long time. A lot of those guys I don't agree with. Some of the guys are kind of putzes, but by and large, 90% of the time I get some great information from these guys. I don't want to say a lot of guys I don't agree with. Some of the guys I don't agree with. Some of the guys just come across as just, Anyway, long story short, he was talking about what it takes to buy happiness. He's going back to the Danny Kahneman, Amos Tversky study they did a long time ago. Kahneman has won the Nobel Prize. Tversky would have won it with him, except that Tversky died, and you don't issue the Nobel if you're dead. So it would have certainly been a joint venture between Kahneman and Tversky. But the whole point of it is those are the founders, essentially, of the behavioral economics, behavioral finance study, where people are rational, irrational, how they act. You just can't pin why people act the way they do, not just with money, but just the behavior generally. All right, so anyway, Kahneman, his whole thing is that people are more afraid of losing than they are happy to gain by a 2-to-1 ratio. All right, so it'll take for you the happiness you get from making $200 is the equivalent of the sorrow you get from losing $100. Does that make sense? They did some studies. I mean, at some point, I'm sure some guy will come up and disprove all this, because this is the thing with these guys. They do some study, and everyone says, oh, yeah, and everyone kind of gloms onto it as if it's, a scientific fact. And it's, well, what is that based on? Well, we did a couple of studies, okay. And then they'll do a couple other studies at some different day in society and time frame, a different group of people, and they'll come up with something different. The old school will protect that theory, like their guard in Fort Knox, and they'll drive people away who try to challenge the theory, and then those guys die off, and that's when you have a new subset of a different kind of thought. In science, if you look at some of these scientists, I think it's Richard Feynman, F-E-Y-N-M-A-N. I think he talked about that you don't really get new ideas until the old school scientists die off, and the new ones feel free to challenge the prevailing authority. That kind of goes back with the high carbs, low fat stuff. That was all the rage because of Eisenhower and Ansel Keys and these guys. And then after that, anyone who challenged that was deemed a heretic, essentially. Those guys die off, and now we're seeing more people in academia who said that was all fake. Let's look at this other thing. And what will happen, of course, is 25 years from now, these guys, just like the climate scientists, I mean, it's the same exact thing. It's just like the scientists is all like that. Anyway, so Richard Feynman, I think, said you're not going to get new thoughts until the old school dies off. So, Kahneman is a great guy. I love his work, and I actually agree with that. People are more afraid of loss than they are hoping for gain. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have laid their whole financial career on that, saying, hey, we got to protect the downside. And I completely agree with that, but it'll just be interesting to see how that shakes out in the future. Like, is that really true? Just because a couple guys did a couple studies on that, we've all, a whole industry is built up around that. That's the way the financial industry is, actually. We all want to be scientific to show that, hey, we're not just salesmen, we're scientists at heart, evidence-based investing. All right, so the point of all that. So going back to my man, Larry Swedroe. Kahneman did a study, and he said basically happiness is $74,000 a year in income. And he says, now more people, that's on income, you're most happy when you have, I think he said $10 million in net worth. And you progressively get less happy the more net worth you have after 10 million bucks. So if you have like $500,000, your happiness is 65. If you have $10 million, it's 79. If you have $15 million, it drops back to 71 and so on. The more wealth you have, at some point, the less happy you become. I thought that was pretty interesting, actually. And then someone sent me a video about my man, Michael Finke, or Fink, he used to be at Texas Tech. I think he was at American College now. And he's a PhD, and I read this guy all the time. He's fantastic. He used to run the financial planning department for Texas Tech University. Finke, so you got Fal, Finke, Blanchett, and I'm missing a guy. And I can see his name in front of me. Fal, Finke, Blanchett, you got Jonathan Guyton, and there's another guy, obviously Kitsis, PFB. Fal, Finke, Blanchett, I guess that's it, PFB. Well, anyway, so a subscriber sent, I forgot who it was, sorry bud, I forgot who you were. But anyway, sent me a video with Finke talking about that saving too much, you know, kind of going back to my video I did a couple days ago about can you save too much. And his whole argument was that there's no evidence at all that people with more income get less happy. Yet people with more wealth get less happy. People with more income, there's no evidence or study that validates that those people are less happy. Interesting, and it kind of goes back to the idea, I don't know if y'all can see these horses, look at that. Parts of Georgia, man, are just freaking gorgeous. Too bad there's a big old horse sitting over there. Anyway, the idea was that with the income, going back to people are okay spending their salary, but they're not okay spending the principal. It's rational behavior for someone to say, I'm okay spending $100,000 if I'm making $125,000 a year of income or dividends, all right? Because I look at dividends as an income source. I'm not okay spending $125,000 if I have to tap into my $10 million portfolio, because that's principal. And selling, depleting principal is frightening, whereas spending income is not. That truly doesn't make sense, because when you are spending income, that is income that is no longer being going to add to your principal. I mean, that literally makes sense. It's not rational to think like that. I got 10 million bucks. I spent $125,000. That makes me not happy. I got 5 million bucks. I get dividends of $150,000, and I spend $125,000. I'm okay with that, but that doesn't make any sense, because that $125,000 is not going back to principal. It could be if you didn't spend it. Does that make sense? It's weird. It's a weird dilemma, and I don't know how you square that circle. I mean, I do, because people don't have to be rational. But you think about it. I'm gonna spend my money regardless if it comes from income or it comes from principal. If it comes from income, though, I'll probably spend more. Why? Because I'm not tapping into my principal. But in fact, you are. Because you're spending that income that's now not being added to your principal. It's just interesting, actually. I've got to catch my breath there, walking this big old hill. So why would income allow you, like from dividends, from Social Security check, from annuity, from work, you name it, pension? Why would income consumption not have the same feeling of loss that spending from principal does? It's interesting, isn't it? Because again, I no longer have that money to invest, regardless from where it came, what the source was. The source is from my account value or the sources of my income. Either way, it's not there anymore in which I can use it. I just find that interesting. Anyway, so Swedroe says $74,000 is the income that makes most people happy. And I think the reason for that is because the median household income is $60,000. So people are saying, if I just had, a little bit more than my median household income, I'd be happy. I don't pay a whole lot of, I think there's more to that picture than what these people are saying. Swedro and other financial planners saying, oh, you need $74,000, I maximize your utility of happiness. I don't believe that. Actually, some guy did a study, researched that a little bit deeper, and that's not the true story. It's interesting, but it's not the true story. But again, going back to Finke, or Fink, F-I-N-K-E, he says there's no study that shows that people's happiness, what's it called? The diminishing returns. The returns don't diminish as income increases. There's no study that does that. Whereas you have diminishing returns on happiness as your portfolio increases. Isn't that interesting? And I say, I think part of the reason for that is because going back to the principal versus income thing. If you make too much income, you just give it away, give it to church. You're like, I'm cool. However, people are less likely to do that with part of their portfolio. They're like, man, I need $100,000 to live on. I got a $10 million portfolio. I don't know, can I afford to give $25,000 to the church? And I'm throwing out those numbers, so you get it. So I don't want to spend my money, my principal, but I'm okay with spending it from my income. Something to think about, which is why, again, I go back to why people spend less in retirement. Because most are they're consuming all of their income, which is Social Security and or pension and or dividends. But then when it comes to spending from their principal, they start finding ways to cut back where they don't have to spend so much. And so that will say, I don't think I'm gonna do, like I'm gonna get some barbecue tonight. I don't think I'm gonna get barbecue if it doesn't come from income. If it comes from principal, I think I'm just gonna throw some doggies on the grill. That makes sense, isn't it? Interesting. So anyway, just thought I'd tell you guys that while I'm going for my walk, talk about my lack of blogging or vlogging, whatever they call it, while I'm driving, instead of just doing it while I'm walking. Hopefully my out of breath doesn't turn you off and make you unsubscribe. As always, smash the like button, as my man Graham Stephan says, or Steven, whatever his name is. It does, my man Tim Pool, he talks about that too, how they're really pushing on the YouTube algorithm. I guess YouTube has come out with I guess they're, kind of forcing the issue with the activity and the engagement of folks who watch the videos. The more you get, the more they'll promote it to other people. So that's the number one way you can support this channel. Smash, my friends, smash. Always don't forget to say something in the comments. And they always say it's a good idea to ask a question to get people engaged. What would be a good question to ask you to be engaged? What do you think would take to give you happiness, the most happiness, from an income and or a capital base, a net worth base, and net worth not including home? So liquid net worth, would it take $74,000 for you to maximize your happiness, your utility? How about your net worth, the liquid net worth, your liquid portfolio, stocks, bonds, CDs, and whatnot? Would you need 10 million, 5 million? I literally think it completely depends on where you are today. If you would have told me, I remember when we broke $100,000 in my IRA, my 401k at USA, that was in 2009, 2010, 2011, I was in New Jersey. I remember I was taking out the trash. Looked at my phone, saw I had broken $100,000. First time I ever had six figures. Your old buddy Josh, that was in 2011. First time. And I see, I'm 48 now, it's 2019. I was 40 years old. First time I had ever broken $100,000. That's just one number. Why is 99,000 any different than 100,000? Doesn't make sense, but it did. It was a great feeling. It was a great feeling. And that's why, starting a savings program, my friends, ASAP is the way to go, because you have, once you get into the four figures, 1,000, and then you get into five figures, and then at some point you get into six. It's addictive, man. And you don't want to spend that money down. I get it, man. I've been there. I had, where was I? Maxed. Never quite got to $500,000. I was up pretty good, and then I took some pretty big distributions to quit my job a couple years ago. I'm not anywhere near 500,000 now, but that's painful. But I invested in myself. I said I can invest in these other companies, or I can invest in myself. and we'll see which one wins. And I invested myself, and you know, so far so good. Had a lady email me today, or not email, we did a quick consultation for her, and she said she invested in her 401k in herself, and she goes, I'm not sure it's the best decision, but you know, what can you do? Here I am, I run a business, probably sell it next year, and I'm pretty happy. So, you know, at the end of the day, on paper, was that the best decision? No. At the end of the day, paper, Excel spreadsheets, all the science in the world doesn't mean crap when it comes to your own what's up here. That's the only thing that's rational, is what's in your mind to how to maximize your utility. No psychologist, no financial planner, no spreadsheet, no software program can tell you how to maximize your happiness. Only you can do that. All right, we'll see you next time.